My mantra is to understand life as a path for evolution. And evolution for me is to have more compassion, more kindness, more respect, more consciousness, more awareness. And sometimes you have to maybe see that this is the real goal.
This is Life's Tough, Explorers Are Tougher, and I'm your host, Richard Wiese. Scratch the surface of an explorer and you'll find an adventure and a great story. This show is about their tales. This podcast is a proud supporter of the Explorers Club and the EC50 Initiative, 50 people changing the world that the world needs to know about. For more information, go to explorers.org. Welcome to Life is Tough, Explorers Are Tougher, in association with the Explorers Club. I'm your host, Richard Wiese. When most people think of exploration, they think about going further, higher mountains, deeper oceans, longer journeys. But my guest today has redefined what exploration can be. Bertrand Piccard is someone who doesn't just explore the world. He explores what's possible. He was part of the first nonstop balloon flight around the globe. Then with Solar Impulse, he showed the world that an airplane could fly around the Earth powered only by the sun. And now with his newest project, Climate Impulse, he's taking on one of the biggest challenges of our time, proving that clean, zero-emission aviation isn't just a dream, it's within reach. I've known Bertrand for over 30 years, which means I can say this with confidence. He doesn't just explore the world, he quietly raises the bar for the rest of us. Bertrand, my friend, great to see you.
Hello, Richard. Hello. Well, I go very well after such a nice introduction like this, because we have the same sense of the importance of exploration, not just to discover, but to understand and inspire the youth, inspire other people to get out of their comfort zone, to reach what other people believe is impossible, because we can do so much more than what we think. And I think that's the message we have to tell to everyone.
You know, I have to admit that every time I know that I'm going to see or speak to you, I smile. And the reason why is I feel that this world, it always feels like it's on fire, that it's collapsing. And yet you go beyond just the sort of like complaining about what's happening and actually doing something. I always feel optimistic about you. Well, optimistic around you.
You know what, Richard? If we have half an hour, I can speak about all my success. And if we have 3 hours, I can speak about all my failures. Because I failed a lot. You know, if there was Breitling Orbiter 3, when I flew around the world nonstop, it's because 1 and 2 failed. And it's not always easy to fail, but we have to accept that risk, the risk of failing. And maybe this is why a lot of people are not explorers, because they are afraid that it doesn't go the way they want. And I think we just have to admit that trial and errors will reach us to a better experience that will make us succeed at the end. But sometimes we have to wait for the end until we succeed, and it's not always easy.
Well, I'm curious with you, because if you read your bio, people are like, wow, this guy is probably the greatest explorer of the 21st century. And yet you talk about failures. And I have teenagers, and it seems that so often that whether it be in sports or academics, anything, that they meet with some sort of obstacle and they say, well, I'm going to go for plan B. And so what is the message that you, especially teenagers, that you talk about failure, or maybe the idea of being humiliated because you didn't succeed?
I always told them that the only way to be absolutely certain to fail is not to try. And I try to repeat what I received from my father and my grandfather. 3 values. Curiosity, because without curiosity, you'd never try something new. Perseverance, because without perseverance, you don't succeed in the new things you try. And respect, otherwise your success have no value. And this can be implemented everywhere, for flying, for diving, for mountain climbing, but also to choose a job, to choose a partner of life, to have children, to study, to get retired. All this, it's exactly about the same thing. If you remain in your comfort zone because you're afraid of everything, your life's going to be much harder than if you're interested by everything and you try to explore it and you try to understand it. And sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed. And this is part of the experience of life.
The last time we spoke, you were giving a story about walking with Neil Armstrong, and I think it was Ronaldo was on the street. And, obviously Neil Armstrong, Apollo 11. I'm curious, it's been quite a long time since we've gone to the moon. Did you watch the Artemis launch yesterday?
No.
What?
No, it's a remake of what Apollo 8 has done in 1968. Why should I wake up in the middle of the night to see something that has been done already 56 years ago? No. When somebody will go on Mars, then I will say, that's really new. But why make such a big thing for going around the moon, not even landing on the moon, just going around the moon?
Why do you think it's been so long since we've gone to the moon?
It's exactly the same thing than the Mariana Trench. When my father, together with Don Walsh, made the dive to the Mariana Trench, that was 1960, 11 kilometers deep. It took 50 years until someone went back. That was James Cameron and then Victor Vescovo. And the moon, it's the same, because in the beginning, you have pioneers, you have explorers, you have people who take the risk. And then once that it's done, you have other people who want to redo it without any risk, without inventing a new technology to go, because it was already done and invented before, but with no risk. And no risk, it's not exploration anymore. No risk, it means you have to rely on your lawyers, on the administration, on the permissions, on the authorizations, on the regulation. And at the end, it takes a very long time, and probably that's why nobody went back on the moon before. Now it's going to be an industry, not an exploration. If they go on the moon, it's to take materials, it's to take rare earth, it's to take rare metals and bring them back on Earth. But it's not the same thing than having Neil Armstrong as Buzz Aldrin together with their, circuit breakers that they have to repair with their pencil. That was incredible time.
I call that, I have a phrase for that. It's called Hemingway without the hangover, meaning that people want to do something very noble, like running with the bulls, but they don't actually want to be near the bull.
Yes, it's beautiful. Hemingway without the hangover.
Hey, so,
good luck, Richard.
I want to talk to you a little about Climate Impulse, because I was there for Solar Impulse. I remember meeting you at Kennedy Airport, during your journey. And I thought that was a fantastic mission, flying around the Earth just using the sun, and that it was a great advance in aviation. But it seems like with Climate Impulse, you're going on just beyond creating an airplane. It seems like you're building an ecosystem of academics, of science, heavy industry. And so what have you learned in terms of now you're going in areas that you hadn't gone before? You're mixing different worlds to sort of create something for the future.
Yes, with Solar Impulse, actually, it was more a way to promote renewable energies than to promote clean aviation. Because it's true that Solar Impulse was not relevant to carry passengers for commercial flights. But I wanted to show that renewable energies, and especially solar power, photovoltaic, could achieve something that was considered to be impossible. For Climate Impulse, you are absolutely right, Richard, it's different. Climate Impulse is an airplane that will fly 100 knots, 10,000 feet around the world, non-stop in 9 days. That's the plan. I don't want to be arrogant and say we will succeed. I say what we are willing to attempt. And in order to make this happen, We need companies from the world of aviation. We have Airbus supporting us. We have big industries like Syensco, providing all the material, the carbon fiber. We have Breitling, of course, and Orange to have the telecommunication to bring the story in every household of the world. But we also have a university, Mohammed VI Polytechnic, and the Office Sharifien di Phosphate. It's the industry in Morocco that wants to diversify into hydrogen. And all these industries, all these universities, and also the patrons like you, Richard, and the Explorers Club, and all the institutions that are working for the same goal of understanding better the world and making the world a better place. All these people are making an ecosystem. And of course, the goal is to show that we can use hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, for aviation, for trains, for boats, that means for heavy transport, and even more than that we can restore hope, that we can bring solutions to people who believe that there are no solutions and no future. I don't know how it is in America, but in Europe, have a lot of people who are depressed because they think we are at the end of a life that works well, that now everything will be polluted, destroyed, difficult. And some of them don't go to school because they think it's useless to learn anything. They don't want to have children because they think that there is no future. No, I want to fight against that. I want to show we can do better, that we can have new solutions, new technologies, a spirit of pioneering, a spirit of exploration, that we have to explore and invent a better future. And Climate Impulse, like this, is a flagship for very exciting protection of the environment. This is why it needs to be an ecosystem. This is why I also rely on the Explorers Club to relay all this adventure to its members and to everybody in the US.
Our mission is to empower the next generation of explorers. If you like this podcast, please recommend it to a friend and have them join the expedition.
You know, it's interesting you bring up sort of cultural norms around the world. There is a lot of pessimism around the world. There really is. I think part of it is the 24-hour news cycle. You know, you watch the news all day and it just, you know, everything is the situation room. A lot of people don't realize that your doctorate is in psychology. So what is the psychology of changing people to feel more to that can-do attitude?
There are several ways. One is to use the problem in order to find the opportunity. If we are in a world that is polluted, let's see what are the solutions that can at the same time run the economy, make new business markets, new industrial products on the market, in order to have a cleaner world with less pollution. So it's not just stop everything. No, not at all. It's do better. And we have always to look at the opportunity behind the crisis, behind the problem. That's one thing. Then the other one, I believe, is something that is maybe a little more subtle. But we have lost the sense of spirituality because we make a confusion between spirituality and religion. And a lot of people have thrown away the spirituality because they wanted to throw away the religion. Or maybe because they have other religions or whatever. We have to come back to the spiritual root. What is spirituality? Spirituality is the awareness of the present moment. Spirituality is about compassion for others. It's about respect for life. It's about having a higher goal, trying to do good. All this is independent from religion. And if you notice, all this belongs to the spirit of the explorer. If the explorer has no awareness of the present moment, he will die during his expeditions because he will not be able to respond to all the unpredictable and to all the dangers. If he has no compassion for others, no respect for life, if he doesn't want to have a better world? Why is he exploring? So I find these important values amongst the explorers, and this is why I believe the explorers have a very, very important role to play in restoring hope, in raising the ambition, in showing to people, well, life is not only about material stuff, it's also about higher values.
Hey, listen, I couldn't agree any more with those ideas of, I call it a universal bill of behavior. You don't have to be Catholic or Jewish or, Islamic. There's certain values. And I think that idea of kindness and empathy, unfortunately, I see that sort of rolling back in this, and at least where I sit in the United States, a lot of environmental laws are being stripped down. A lot of things are like the drill baby drill. And so you have often argued that in order to succeed, you have to prove that some of these cleaner solutions or better solutions are actually more profitable. And you've been arguing that for a long time, but it seems like there's still a point that it hasn't fully been accepted. And so what is it that we need to show or communicate? Maybe it's how we communicate it, that you can use less air conditioning and keep your house cool, and it's not going to cost you as much, and you're going to be doing something that's not traditional.
I think we have to be a bit more reasonable, a bit more accountable, responsible. It's true that putting the air conditioning at 15 degrees Celsius, it's ridiculous because we need to put a sweater, we need to put a jacket. All the ladies with their dresses are cold. And I don't know why it gives such a good impression when everybody is too cold. I think it's ridiculous. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of money. So I'm not saying we have to get rid of air conditioning. We have to put it at the normal temperature that is comfortable, which is roughly between 23, 25 degrees Celsius. And in the winter, it's ridiculous to heat at 30 degrees Celsius, because this is the temperature in which in winter we would cool down. So there is a bit of common sense. But I would say more than that. Instead of having an air conditioning that is run with a oil or gas generator, you can have a heat pump working on electricity that will heat in winter, cool down in summer, and you save 80% of the energy. And when the Strait of Hormuz is closed to oil, the people who have a heat pump like me, who have solar panels like me, a well-insulated house like me, and an electric car like me, they don't care. They don't care because there is much more independence, much more energy sovereignty, much more efficiency. And when you are efficient, you use much less in order to achieve much more. So that's the way to go. When you are in a space shuttle or when you are in the International Space Station, you are efficient. You even recycle your urine to have the drinking water. You're completely efficient. Circular economy. You don't waste anything. The world should be run like this.
I have to tell you a funny story. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, and it's a joke between my sisters and I. The worst thing when I was growing up you could do in my household was touch the thermostat. My father would always say, wear a sweater if you're cold. That was, sort of a post-World War II generation of saving. And so when he got older in his 80s and 90s and it was cold, I'd walk in there and the house was like a terrarium. It was so hot that, I was like, Dad, what happened to this whole sweater thing?
Yeah. But, I believe the problem with protection of the environment was the wrong narrative that we had for years, in which ecology was linked to sacrifice, to doing less, to renounce, to mobility, to comfort. The narrative was linked to a lot of subsidies, so very expensive for the finance of the state. And this is wrong. ecology should be exciting, should be profitable, should be admirable. People should say, wow, that's great, it's fashionable, and we're going to do better, not less. And this is also the message that I want to bring in with Climate Impulse, with this hydrogen-powered airplane. It looks beautiful. 2 huge fuselage to put the liquid hydrogen, 36 meter of wingspan, exactly like an Airbus 320, a cockpit in the middle to put 2 people for around the world. And when we will fly with less hydrogen, we can put 4 people in. So it's a real airplane, and it's going to fly, and it's going to show that you can bring hydrogen on the airports, that you can make the hydrogen industry desirable, the role of pioneers, or open the way and show what we can do. And I think it can be very, very attractive for a lot of people who have lost the hope of seeing things moving in this world.
Bertrand, but hydrogen's been around, or the concept of hydrogen fuel has been around a long time. Why is it that it seems to have a hard time getting over the hump? Is it that the perception people have is that you have like literally a hydrogen bomb on your airplane or on your car, or there's got to be a little bit of a psychological barrier as well?
Well, here again, I don't know how it is in the US, but in Europe, there is a big movement to ban aviation, saying aviation is polluting and we have to get rid of aviation, flying much less, and maybe even allow people to fly 4 times in their life and not more. Crazy.
Will never happen. Never happen.
Yeah. It will never happen. And it's a way to do nothing, because wanting to ban aviation will never happen. But what could happen is to make aviation cleaner and more attractive. And they don't work on that. They work on banning aviation. And there are people who tell me, well, what you do is wrong, because you are making believe to the population that a clean aviation can exist. And I say, of course, a clean aviation can exist. And I'm going to do all I can do in the last years of my life to show that and to prove it. And then there's another thing also. The governments usually misunderstand the role of pioneers. They believe that the industry can be a pioneer. So in Europe, there were big goals of producing megatons of liquid hydrogen everywhere. But the industry is not a pioneer. The industry is here to make business. So we first need the pioneers, the explorers, to show what is possible, to open the way, but also in the industry. My part is, of course, in the sky, but other explorers can do it for boats, for trains, show that it works. And once it works, and it's proven it works, then the industry will come, the industry will scale it up, the industry will make the profit, and the industry will bring it everywhere. And the governments have not understood that. They have waited for the industry to be the pioneers, which means that nothing happened.
So I'm curious, because you've gone from literally being a pilot to a convener, and you no longer have the simplicity of just sitting in a cockpit and just taking care of yourself or your partner. Now you're sitting with CEOs or heads of state. And so what are the arguments that you see that actually move them?
The argument that moves the CEO is the profit, otherwise he loses his job. And the argument that drives a minister or a prime minister or president of a country is job creation. Otherwise, he's on the ejection seat and is fired because there are unemployed people. So if you tell them, hey guys, we have to protect the environment, and it's going to be difficult, expensive, it will cost a lot of money, you will be needing sacrificial measures and people will suffer, they kick you out of the office. But if you come and you say, look, protection of the environment can be so much more profitable, you will create new jobs, you will make an efficient industry, and all the products that will be sold will be for efficiency, to reduce the waste and increase the yield. And then they listen to you. And they say, okay, why not? Let's go for it.
Well, why not? I can give you a why
but
not.
Know what happens? You know what happens then? The administration, the regulations. You can move nothing in this world because everything is welded. Everything is tied. Everything is, you are prisoner of the habits, prisoner of the inertia, prisoner of the fear of change. And this is terrible.
Well, I also think you're a prisoner, and not to be cynical, but, you know, for example, the oil industry has trillions of dollars, you know, really invested in oil exploration. And they also contribute to political parties. And, you know, it seems like it'd be very difficult to sort of break those even within a combustion car, right? Electric cars are making inroads, but, you know, they're so invested in, you know, a type of technology that they've been using for essentially 75 years. And so, you know, I think that the strategy has to be just beyond what's better and the obvious, because I've come to the conclusion you can show people better and the obvious, and they still won't do it for whatever reason.
I agree that an electric vehicle is a threat for the oil companies, but not hydrogen. Hydrogen is the perfect diversification for an oil company, because oil companies, they know how to produce, distribute, and sell a gas or a liquid. So hydrogen is exactly what has to be done by the oil companies. And then the other thing, Richard, I'm never accusing the oil companies to sell oil, because the public is buying that oil. And the only thing to do is to buy less oil, to consume less oil, to have an electric car, to have a heat pump, to have LED lamps, to have everything that saves energy. And all the people buying less oil will automatically push the oil companies to diversify. They will install electric chargers for cars. They will sell hydrogen. They will sell biogas. They will respond to the demand. I was once, in an ecological meeting, and someone said on stage, "We have to stop the production of oil," and everybody applauded. Okay, then it was my turn to go. Yeah, then I came on stage and I said, "Okay, you applauded. That's very, very nice, but you came here with oil. You bought oil. You came with a car. You came with a plane. You came with a boat. So why do you applaud when you say stop the production? We have to say stop the consumption." And that's our responsibility. And then everybody applauded again. So you see the versatility of the people. It's a bit stupid.
Yeah, but I'm kind of curious of the strategy. I often have a lot of young explorers come to me and say, I want to get rid of this person, or I want to stop that. And, I said to them, you've got to be strategic, because I think it's in this world probably easier to be for something than against something. So there's got to be a strategy. Again, younger explorers are looking at this in their 20s and 30s, and they are very passionate about what they do, whether it be wildlife or saving the ocean. So you mentioned the last few years of your life, and I hope it's more than a few. Has your strategy in terms of creating change, has that changed?
Yes, because in the beginning I thought speaking about the beauty of nature, the miracle of life, was enough for people to protect our world. And it's not. And sometimes I feel a little bit ashamed, because I came to be very much down to earth. And for a pilot, it's a bit strange. Now I'm not speaking to the people about the beauty of life and the magic of nature. I'm saying, how can we be more economically attractive if we have solutions that protect the environment? So it's a strange language maybe for an explorer, but it's a much more efficient language, because the people who have the power, the people who can change the world, who can make it different, they need to be motivated. And my role is to motivate them for changing. And motivating them for changing is to show you can make more money, You can have new business opportunities, new products for the market. You will create more jobs. You will be better re-elected. You'll make more profit. And at the same time, you will protect the environment. And it's much more powerful than to tell them, oh, we have to stop everything, ban oil, renounce to mobility, renounce to comfort, make a sacrifice of all our dreams of the future. That doesn't work.
So if Climate Impulse succeeds, right, is there a domino effect?
That's what I wish. And the domino effect is not just about the flight itself. It's about the way the people will understand the message. That's why we have Orange, the French telecommunication company, to spread all our message to every household. They will bring the flight around the world to everyone with cameras in the cockpit, with interviews, with speeches to schools, speeches to universities, speeches to corporations, to the public, of course. And this is why I want also to include institutions like the Explorers Club or the National Geographic or whoever wants to join us and be like an ambassador to the world, not an ambassador of just an airplane flying around the world on hydrogen, but an ambassador of the spirit of pioneering, the spirit of exploration, the way to do better, the way to get out of our comfort zone, the way to accept the unknown, to make something about the question marks and the doubts of life in order to stimulate our creativity and our performance. And I think the ultimate exploration is exploration of life itself. Life, just life. Human beings around us. What happens? Why are we here on this planet? What's our role? How can we make a better place here? All this is about exploration. And I would really like to create more attractability and visibility for the spirit of exploration through this project of Climate Impulse.
You know, you give so many little life lessons or psychological sort of meeting points. Have you written these things down? Because the way you talk, I feel like it's one quote after another that I need to write down. Are you writing a book?
I wrote 6 books. I'm writing a 7th book.
And what's this one about?
The 7th book, the one I write now, is about the state of the world and how to face it with an explorer's mind.
You know, I think that you sort of touched on the idea of the spirituality of exploration. And years ago, I think it was during COVID, I interviewed you on, sort of surviving isolation. And
yes,
that was during COVID. And you once said to me that if you don't come out of a crisis better than you started, it would have all been a waste.
Yes.
And so the world is in a crisis on many levels right now. What is your recipe for us getting beyond this and creating a better world?
Well, my recipe is to understand that everything that happens to us is maybe not here to destroy us. It's maybe here to teach us how to be better, how to be different, how to evolve. And everything that happens is an experience that we have to deal with. And there are some really painful experiences in life. There are horrible things, terrible disasters and sadness and suffering. But if we consider that it's an experience for us to evolve, to understand more, to cope with this, to overcome what happens, then I believe we find the strength to go through it and try to transform the crisis into an adventure. An adventure, it's a crisis that we accept. And the crisis is an adventure that we refuse. And when we understand that, we have a different view on the experiences of life. And this is also what I want to write in these books. But you know, curiously enough, my most philosophical book explaining all this, which is called in French, Changer d'altitude, change altitude, it was never translated in English.
I remember you telling me about this. You said that sometimes in life, it's about changing your altitude to, come up on smoother air. I'm just sort of paraphrasing it.
Like in a balloon, you drop the ballast of your attitudes and your habits in order to change altitude and take other winds. That means other influences, other strategies, other answers, other solutions that give you a better direction. That's how you go around the world in a balloon. That's how you go around life.
From a more practical standpoint, a very good friend of mine, in fact, he's a member of the Explorers Club. He had been falsely imprisoned in Iran for 6 years as a spy,
Yeah.
tortured regularly, isolation, the whole thing. And he said that every day he would, no matter how bad it was, he would just look for that one ray of light, something that he could grasp on. You know, people going through crisis, and it doesn't really matter what the crisis is because, you know, to them it's important and to them it's a crisis.
Yeah.
What is your advice? Can you give any kind of mantra that you have when there's a crisis?
My mantra is to understand life as a path for evolution. And evolution for me is to have more compassion, more kindness, more respect, more consciousness, more awareness. And sometimes you have to maybe see that this is the real goal. Sometimes I don't know why we have to suffer so much, but maybe if everything was easy, if you are rich, happy, in a good health, nothing bad to you, would you look for something else? Would you look for a spiritual development? Would you look for being more kind, more generous, more conscious, more compassionate? Maybe not. Maybe the world in which we are living is a world of duality. Nothing is unique. Everything is dual. You have day and night. You have good and bad. You have left and right. You have the earth and the sky. You have war and peace. You cannot have only peace. You cannot have a coin that has only one face. As soon as you are incarnated into the material world, you have duality. And this duality, of course, sometimes is beautiful and sometimes is absolutely horrible. And the goal is maybe to get out of this world of material things, to get out of this world of duality, and to be ourselves in a world of unicity, of harmony, of serenity. And this needs a lot of spiritual development, a lot of spiritual evolution, a lot of exploration of how to get there, because it's not easy, but I think this is the path. And the path is not to believe that the dual world is the paradise. No, I think the paradise is elsewhere at another level in a world of more spirituality.
You're old enough to be my older brother, not by a lot, but older. And so as we head into a different phase of our life where maybe walking is tougher or taking care of ourselves, do you feel that you'll be able to navigate this in a graceful way, or is that something you haven't explored yet? It's really about getting older because ultimately it all fails in the end and we die. And so are you able to reconcile that and say, well, you know, I'll hang on as long as I can? Or is that idea of inevitability, is it something that, you know, I mean, to be honest, it bums me out a little.
Yes. In every exploration, there are moments where we have goosebumps, where we can be afraid, and life is an exploration, and we are going to explore the older ages. That's for sure. I'm 68, and either I die or I get old. You have no other choice. And if I get old, it means I haven't died yet. So it's something.
Which is a better choice, I think. It's a better choice.
Yes, it's a better choice. But anyway, I'm not sure we choose anything in that sense. So we have to go with life, and we suffer less if we go with than if we go against. People who are so afraid of getting old that they're depressed, finally they suffer much more than if they are happy being old. But now, of course, we're getting closer to death, and death is the ultimate exploration. It's the moment where we will probably understand everything we have not understood during our life. So maybe it's a bit frightening in a way, but in another way, I think if we've been explorers all our life, it's going to be a very interesting moment when we die to see what there is on the other side, how we can understand the reason of all this. Why are we on Earth? Why are we dying? Why are things like this? Why is human being like that? And this is what we're going to discover. So, there are beautiful moments for people who reach the North Pole, the South Pole, the Everest Mountain, the Mariana Trench, the moon. When you fly around the world in a balloon or a solar airplane, the last landing, you touch the ground and you say, wow, I succeeded. That's probably what we should expect when we die. It's the climax of our life. When finally we come to the point where we all have to arrive and we understand why we're here and why everything happened. So we shouldn't be afraid of it.
Wow. Bertrand, you never, ever, ever disappoint. I have to admit, I do enjoy speaking with you.
Likewise, Richard.
Yeah,
likewise.
Thank you for being on Life's Tough. And there's a lot to digest here, but I think that if I can sort of sum it up, it's to some degree, seems like you're the author of your own life and maybe the author of how you'd like to see the world go. So thank you for that optimism.
With pleasure. I love to share these reflections. And with you, I know that there is a really good feedback, and you also push me a bit further than what I usually used to think. And I love to have these discussions with you.
All right. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast. Now we have a little favor to ask. We'd really appreciate your support, so make sure to leave us a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss another episode. See you out on the trail.